I'm going to teach you how to create your own sustainable fat loss plan. So I harp on about sustainable fat loss. I'm the sustainable fat loss coach. I'll demonize quick fixes in all of their different variations, be it tablets, cleanses, programs, whatever it is. And what I want to be able to do is inform, educate, and advise you on how to do it yourself and give you some tips and tricks along the way. Now, I'm going to start this as a bit of this will be part one. And then if you like it, part two will be next week. And if you don't like it, part two is still going to be next week. So one way or the other, it's still getting posted. It's just whether anybody actually listens to it. And the reason I'm breaking it down into parts is because each part deserves its own specific section so that we can really talk about it in some depth. And the first and foremost part of creating yourself a sustainable plan is having reasonable expectations. So reasonable expectations are what we're going to be talking about today in their entirety. But don't worry, it's not going to be too long a video either. It's going to be succinct. It's a good word. Most people will start off their journey, especially if they're doing it on their own, by expecting too much of themselves and overly restricting themselves, and will inevitably end up burning out, pressing the fuck it button, and then they'll start again next week, next month, next year, whatever it might be. So if let's talk about nutrition first and foremost. So setting your expectations and reasonable expectations around the nutrition comes from doing a bit of an assessment. How are you eating now? How much are you eating now? What are you eating now? So I'd advise picking up something like MyFitnessPal, for example, or NutriCheck, or whatever kind of calorie counting app you prefer, and just log your food as you eat now. And that'll give you this kind of benchmark, like, what am I doing now? How much protein am I getting? What's my carb intake? What's my calorie intake? What's my fat intake? Make a note of what you eat, when you eat, times you eat. Keep a little diary. Because over that first week to 2 weeks, you'll see a kind of pattern about how you eat. And then you can start making adjustments accordingly. But just going in with this blanket approach of eating 1,200 calories and eating 150 grams of protein doesn't actually address how you're eating. And that needs to be first and foremost. We need to know how you're eating. You need to know how you're eating. And then you can start making the necessary tweaks and changes to start steering you in the right direction. So I would suggest 2 weeks worth of data that you can then look at and analyze, and some of it might shock you. It might shock you how many calories you're consuming and how little amount of protein you're consuming and how large amount of carbs and fats you're consuming. It may be the other way around. You may surprise yourself with, actually, I'm not doing too bad here. I just need to make some small tweaks and changes here because my weight's not shifting. So I know that whatever I'm consuming now is my maintenance level. I know that I can maintain this weight other than normal weight fluctuations. But more often than not, it'll kind of shock you into looking at, right, well, no wonder I'm gaining weight. No wonder I can't get to grips with it because I'm eating like a bit of a dick. I'm not eating anywhere near enough protein. My fiber's really low. My fats and carbs are really high. I'll skip meals and then binge all night on snacks. So analyzing how you eat and then making some tweaks to how you eat now is going to set you up ultimately in the long run to be able to give you a reasonable expectation of what you need to change and what you need to focus on in order to get your nutrition under control. So that would be my first bit of guidance for setting reasonable expectations with nutrition. Get some data and then make the tweaks after you've correlated that data. Secondly, we'll have a look at training. So most people, when they start on fat loss, actually ignore nutrition altogether and go straight into training, and that they have to put on their running shoes or they have to hit the gym. And again, I'm not demonizing exercise. It's really fucking important. But is it the be all or end all when it comes to fat loss? Absolutely not. There are nutrition, hydration, sleep, recovery that play a much bigger role than exercise alone. Daily movement is probably one of the biggest contributors that you need to be considerate of. But setting reasonable expectations with your exercise is really, really important. So first and foremost, include some form of resistance or strength training. It should be a given by now, but you should be doing it for numerous reasons, all of which I will discuss potentially in a different sorry, I'm getting a message in a different channel post video. God, I'm stumbling today. So some form of strength training, even once a week. Like if you're not doing anything at the minute, like find something you can do once a week that's a bit of a whole body. So we're going to have a look at some lower body work, a squat, a lunge, a hinge, something like that. Then you're going to have a look at some upper body, a press, a pull, an overhead. And that would probably do you to start with if you've never done anything before. And it can be done with just some resistance bands or a tin of bloody baked beans. Like anything is going to be more than if you're not doing anything now. If you've got some experience and a little bit more time, then you might want to do it a couple of days a week. And then I would say, right, well, maybe have a look at doing one lower routine and one upper routine. And do you need a gym membership? Absolutely not. Does having a gym membership help? It can do. I know that I'm less motivated to go into my garage to train and more motivated to go to a gym to train. I also find that the exercise selection is greater in something like a gym than it would be in my own home gym. Now, I do a lot of PT clients out of my home gym, so I've got all the kit. So that's not an issue for me, but for me, it's the motivation side. I think there's something about getting in your car and driving to the gym that in itself breeds the motivation to do something once you're there. But if you don't have a gym membership and you have limited space and you don't have a home gym, a set of resistance band, 15 quid off Amazon, find some exercises from YouTube or from me, reach out, say hi, can I have some exercises? I'll give you some. And doing something like that a couple of times a week, one lower, one upper, it could be 20 minutes, twice a week. That's still more than you're doing now if you're not doing anything. But start small and then build. So, expectations. I'm going to go into more depth in different chapters about the nutrition and about the training. But ultimately, I want you to start small and build with the training specifically. And with the nutrition, you need data first. Then once you've got data, you can make informed choices moving forward. Movement, another massive one. Everyone will then go, right, well, I've got to be doing 10,000 steps a day. How reasonable is that if you're in a desk job and you do 2,000 now? Just aim to do more than you do now. Buy 500 or buy 1,000. Like just pick something that's going to be something you can build, but also something you can actually achieve in the short term. So stop expecting more of yourself by over-promising. Hydration. 2.5 litres of water is a kind of ideal amount to be getting. But if you are drinking 12 cups of coffee in a day and a can of full-fat Coke, how reasonable is it to expect you to switch to 2.5 litres of water overnight? Unreasonable, isn't it? It's unreasonable. So start small. I'm going to have 1 glass of water in the morning. I'm going to have a glass of water with each meal. I'm going to get one of those new bottles that tells me when I should drink some water throughout the course of a day. Like, give yourself the best chance of success. Hydration is incredibly important and plays a massive role in your in balancing your weight out and making sure that it's hunger or thirst. And if you're drinking enough, we know it's not thirst, so then must be hunger. It's going to help with your skin, your hydration, your sleep, recovery, everything. But often you expect yourself to have to do too much and then ultimately fail. Reasonable expectations from the offset in all these different areas is going to be really, really important. And making sure that you are setting yourself up to succeed, not to fail, by under promising and potentially over delivering. And that's a key phrase that I want you to take away from today's video. Under promise, over deliver. Because if you over promise and under deliver, what's that going to do to your motivation? Exactly. So, reasonable expectations need to be first and foremost in your creation of your sustainable fat loss plan. Spend some time on that element. It's really, really important to make sure that you are setting yourself up to succeed. So bear that in mind, and I will see you next week for part 2, where we will discuss in more detail nutrition and how to make it sustainable. Speak soon.